if I focus on my employees' success, my success will come.
Relationship you have with your employees is what your employees will have with your customers. Lion and a lamb. You just have to know when to be which one. Okay. You want to lead strong, but not domineering, but also be tender.
Hello, friends. I'm Adam Loveridge. Welcome to the Home Services Marketing Podcast, Growth to Acquisition. I'm the owner and founder of Job Calls. We're a home services marketing agency specializing in heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and remodeling contractors. For more information about Job Calls, visit us online at www.jobcalls.com. Hello, and welcome to the Home Services Marketing Growth to Acquisition podcast. I'm Adam Loveridge with Job Calls Home Service Marketing, and I am joined here today by Jim Bradford with Freedom Air Conditioning, and they're out of, where are you out of again here, Jim?
Auburndale, Florida, basically just outside of Orlando and Tampa, kind of sandwiched in between those two cities.
Fantastic. And Jim and I got to have a really fun conversation last Saturday, inviting him out to this podcast, and I understand that you also have a book, is that correct?
I do. Yes, I do. It's called Masculinity by Design, Finding True North.
Awesome. And I'm really excited to talk more about, about the book and about your story and everything else. And so why don't we go ahead and just start there, Jim? Tell me a little bit about how you got into the heating and air conditioning space, your backstory, if you would.
In 2008, I was a minority owner in a fairly large electrical and air conditioning new construction business. My personal background was the low voltage home theater, that side of the business, but I was the president because I'm pretty passionate about core values and servant style leadership and leading with integrity. And the principal owner promoted me to president. We had 44 trucks, 128 employees. And the backstory is why I have a passion for talking to business owners about their private lives. Because my backstory, I was in a struggling marriage. My wife at the time had multiple affairs. So I'm trying to balance that. As the housing market collapsed, my revenue went from about $8 million a year to $400,000 in about 4 months.
Obviously, I'm sure you guys had to go through, massive layoffs and a variety of other things. I mean, talk to me about the turbulence of that and what happened.
It was devastating. Our receivables ballooned to $647,000 of uncollected receivables. And I had personally guaranteed most of our materials. And it was devastating. I was laying people off in groups of 30 and grown men crying, broken. At the same time, I'm trying to lead through my own brokenness in my home and everything that I was going through. I lost my house. My children had no idea what's going on. So long story short, I just had to completely start over at the time. And I was 42 years old and decided that I was going to learn air conditioning, be an AC service tech. So that's really how I ended up in air conditioning.
Gotcha. So it's through the calamity of the Great Recession of the 2000s then that you wound up in the truck instead of running a bunch of trucks, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I always had a plan. I purposely drove to Tampa because I didn't feel like I could have integrity and work for an AC company in my area, knowing I would eventually start my own AC company. So I drove to Tampa about an hour each way to work in Tampa to get my 5 years working on someone else's AC license so that then I could take the contractor's exam and start an AC service business. That was the plan. All COD, service and replacement was the vision that I had.
Gotcha. And when was Freedom born officially?
Great story. 2013, my middle daughter, Amanda, was a senior in high school, a head cheerleader of her high school cheer team. They were state champs. So she's always been incredibly competitive. And I would come every night frustrated. I had worked for multiple companies, some of them now owned by hedge funds. And so I think you know how that story goes. But they were abusing their customers and abusing us as employees. And I'd come home frustrated. And she said, Dad, me and you start an air conditioning company. And let's do it right this time. And I looked at her, I said, man, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a terrible man. I've never seen a woman do installs, hon. And if we do this, you're climbing an attic with your dad. She's like, I'm tough. So we jumped off the cliff. She was my first installer.
That's awesome. Does she still install AC units now?
She did it for 4 years now. She's actually the president. The guys respect her. She's a licensed contractor. And so she literally runs and leads the business. I do more mentoring, coaching. I spend a lot of time with my employees one-on-one for life, because what I've learned through my own journey, that if we're broken in life, we're not going to perform at the level as an employee that we're capable of. So I've turned in more of mentor and coach, and she's actually the president and runs the business.
Gotcha. And so it sounds like Freedom has been around then for about 10, 12 years, 11, 12 years?
Yeah,
13 years now.
13 years. Yeah, in October will be 13.
Okay, fantastic. And so it started really with you and your daughter, just basically one truck or two trucks?
It was one truck, and we would do installs. Well, she technically had a pickup truck, right? I had the work truck. I would I would go to the install, start taking it out. She would pick up the equipment, bring it. She would do the condenser and the thermostat and go back to our house and answer phones, do permitting, do all the payroll. But we grew fairly quickly. We had to hire another person within 3 months, and we started October of 2013, but we had no customers. March is when we really started to really go for it. And from March to December, we did 780,000. Our first full calendar year, we did $1 million.
Wow, that's fantastic. So you did about $1 million in your first year, and that was just out of one truck, or had you upgraded at that point?
We had 2 trucks.
How many trucks do you have out on the road now?
Right now we have 7.
One of the curiosities that I always have, and I talk with HVAC companies about this quite a bit, is what the revenue is, per truck. What do you see out there in your own business and in terms of what you guys are averaging?
I try to do 400,000 to 500,000, but what we do a little different. We don't put 2 installers in one truck.
Okay.
What we learned, how efficient we were. So, like, for example, I have 2 lead installers that work together, but they're both in one truck. So that kind of skews my numbers down. It makes us so incredibly efficient, but also my installers, when they finish, if they finish a vertical at 2, they're now free to run service calls.
Oh.
Our guys, pretty much everybody does everything. So it makes us crazy efficient, but it does skew down my numbers as far as revenue per truck.
That makes sense. So you don't have any pure service trucks then, per se?
We do. I actually have two guys that are there's what I call senior service technicians, and that's all they do, but they also run free estimates.
Do you find then that the pure service trucks do average that 400 to 500?
Oh, probably more than that for sure.
Okay.
They're the revenue generators selling the majority of the systems, but Well,
I always say that service drive sells,
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
It really, really does, because people are always, you look at keyword volume out there on Google and stuff, right? And repair versus installation, it's a landslide difference, because everybody wants to fix the unit.
Right. Absolutely.
Go minimal. And then it's really our job as HVAC companies to get in there and say, this thing's 15 years old, it's 20 years old, it's 25 years old. I'm going to be back here in 6 months repairing the next thing, because once they start to break down, it kind of just becomes this, synergistic effect. And it really is just when I think, especially, and this is actually a question I've got for you, because I see this a lot with our, clients and different people that I know, where if you can offer financing on the install and bring it down to a monthly payment, that seems to be the easy way to go. Is that what you find as well?
It is. We finance about 60% of our clients use financing. So the way we present on our price pages, we have the COD price, but right next to it, like we have laminated price sheets, and it has the monthly payment right beside that. So they're looking at the monthly payment as well as what the COD price is if they're to pay outright.
Gotcha. And when it comes to acquiring new customers, what have you found to be the most effective, just kind of overall marketing strategies?
This is going to sound very old school, but we grew 21% a year, 4 years in a row, with a marketing budget of 4.8%.
Okay, tell me more. I'm impressed.
There's 2 sides, maybe 3 sides. It's old school. We call it raving fans. Our customers, we are incredibly honored. Right now, we have 904 Google reviews, and we still have a 5.0 with Google.
That's fantastic.
And they write paragraphs. It's the interaction. And I really believe, I'll challenge business owners, the relationship you have with your employees is the relationship they will have with your customers.
Ooh, I have not heard anybody say that before. Please repeat that one more time.
The relationship you have with your employees is what your employees will have with your customers.
So I think this is where we're starting to talk about culture then.
Yes.
That is a brilliant, brilliant statement. And I have not heard anybody ever say that before. But I mean, that holds true for me too, frankly, if I'm being honest, because I try to treat my people very, very well. And they in turn treat my clients very, very well. And I think show up in a way that I'm proud of in terms of my interactions. But I've never really stopped and thought about it consciously. I think it's more just kind of it's just how I show up, right? As a person. And I suspect that that's probably how you just show up as a person too. But it seems like maybe you've put some actual dedicated thought into this.
Well, and it's part of our mission statement. Our mission statement is to be the industry leader in customer satisfaction, employee morale, and community impact. And it's not just something we stick on a wall. I ask every meeting, why are we in business? And they say to be the industry leader in employee morale and customer impact. And then we ask, how do we do it? Professional, honest, team first. That's our core values. And that has to be at the fiber of who you are with your employee. And then they, in turn, will do that with your customer base. So your customer base and your employees are actually your marketing engine.
I agree 100%, and even from the most basic part of asking a customer for a review, and that goes on to Google, it helps rankings, it helps brings in more leads, all of that. But one of the questions that I have though is, do you specifically go out and ask for referrals from your customers? Never. Do they give them to you anyway?
All the time. We don't ask for reviews. And here's what's funny is I think it was 5 years ago now, and it had to be one of our competitors. We had all of our Google reviews stolen. We had 500 Google reviews stolen in 2020, and we're now back to 900 and still have a 5.0.
Wow.
And here's a testimony. We just went through this. A lot of my original team went to school with my daughter. My general manager, I've known since he was 14 years old, and Marcus, his brother, was my field supervisor. This trade is difficult. They both had newborns. They decided they wanted to leave the trade completely. And I had all my eggs in that basket. I had just had back surgery. Well, they quit, gave me 2 weeks notice. Well, then two of the other guys, because they left, we literally have rebuilt our entire team, and we're ahead of budget with a brand new team this year. Because when we do the interview, we pour out, this is who we are, core values, and literally our 5-star reviews are still just cranking with these brand new people because they long for the relationship with us that we talk about with our core values, and they in turn give it to our customer base. So it's literally a reflection of the culture that you are as an owner.
What led you to develop these core values for freedom?
In the 90s, I was a full-time youth pastor. And there was a pastor who started teaching leadership principles, and he would do little cassettes. His name was John Maxwell. I got John Maxwell cassettes in the 90s before he became John Maxwell, the leadership guru. Right. He was actually a pastor. And I devoured all of his stuff. And so when I came into business, it's just who I am and what I believe in as a leader. And so that's where all this stuff came from, was actually John Maxwell.
I did take the opportunity to download your book on Audible, and I think I'm on chapter 5 right now. What struck me was that in the early part of your book, you were talking about your upbringing. You grew up in a dysfunctional, and I would say violent home.
Very violent.
I grew up in a good religious home here in Utah, which, we went to church every Sunday, but our family was also very dysfunctional. And sometimes I think that ism is ism, regardless of, whether it's Catholicism or alcoholism or, and the alcoholism thing runs in my family as well. I think my dad really had this idea that children should be seen and not heard.
Right.
And also there was a lot of violence in the home, or at least a lot of, I'll give you something to cry about type of,
Yes.
type of stuff.
Yes.
And so, I've spent a good amount of my Oh, really? The last 9 years in recovery. And so, what really struck me about your story was this similar background and what you've done to to really overcome that through faith. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that journey has been like for you.
I love the word journey. It's a process. It's a process of getting a vision of who you really want to be. And again, it comes back to core values. I was very fortunate. I met a guy when I was in the Army named Chris Barton. To this day, we're still best friends. And I met his father, and his father was who I wanted to be. And his father was kind and generous, an incredible leader. He was also a baseball coach. I had a vision for what I wanted to become as a man, not what the world says, because as you read in the book, I took steroids, bodybuilder, all that crazy, and the lifestyle that goes with that. And it left me empty. And then I found out what a real man is a real man, to lean on my faith, is a lion and a lamb. You just have to know when to be which one. Okay. You want to lead strong, but not domineering, but also be tender. And I don't think we realize how broken our employees are, especially men. I have some of the most incredible men working for me, but you got to recognize they are so wounded and beat down from the other AC companies that have come in and abused them and didn't care about them and their family. And what I've learned, when they genuinely feel like you care about them as a human, not as a producer, but as a human being, man, they will jump off a cliff for you. And they'll want to do a good job. It is their way of saying, thank you for caring for me. It's a powerful way to lead, but I kind of just, on my journey, again, John Maxwell, huge influence on my life. Just trying to, it sounds so cliche, treat others the way you long to be treated.
How often are we starved for validation and just basic respect, from people and employers, and if I'm being just completely real about it, I think that's a lot of the reason why I'm an entrepreneur,
Right.
Is because growing up in an authoritarian home, I have this fear of authority and also this kind of rebellious thing with authority. But it was really, we were in this situation where there was this massive praise deficit.
Mm-hmm.
What I learned about what a man was man's a provider. But that also means then the excuse is that you can work, 6 days a week, be out of the house before the family wakes up, be home to maybe catch dinner and watch TV for an hour before, rinsing and repeating and just being not present.
Right.
And I think when we as business owners can, first and foremost value ourselves and take care of ourselves, and then do the same for our people, because the people are really, they're the ones who are growing this business on our behalf. They're the ones that are taking the culture and showing up, for our clients and our customers every single day. And you're right. It's if we treat them poorly, they're going to treat our customers poorly. And and you made a point earlier about these AC companies beating people up.
Right.
And, and it's funny because I get this sort of negative feedback sometimes as I'm reaching out to people because of the title of this podcast, where it's the Growth to Acquisition podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel, as I would kind of agree, that private equity is killing the business or killing the industry. Right. And I don't know that I try not to get too in the political stuff, but I have seen many great companies get purchased, have, people who just look at these people like they are just numbers, right? We're not getting 600,000 a truck, so we need to go lay off 20% of our staff so that we can now, hit those revenue numbers, with the full intention that we're going to turn this thing back around in 5 years and essentially flip businesses by coming in, gutting them, and just wrecking the culture, and so I love hearing people like you that care, frankly, and that where that really matters, that culture and those people especially.
Because I really believe there's two styles of leadership. One style says, I want to use you for my success. The other style says, I'm going to help you succeed. And in your success, I succeed. It's so important to pour into others. Find out, first of all, what are their dreams, visions? What are their goals? I just had this conversation yesterday. I asked everybody around the table, what's your 1, 3, 5-year goals? And how can I help you achieve your goals? Whether it be family goals, goals as a man, business goals.
But if you've spent any time in the industry, you also know too that, like, you know, there are going to come times where you've got too much work and somebody else does not, or you don't have enough work and somebody else has, you know, more. And we you know, pass referrals back and forth, and
Right.
and having friendly competitors is a real big deal. I think the marketing industry is actually infinitely more cutthroat.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
than the blue collar industry is. I mean, it's insane to me sometimes what happens. But you know, I think that's a really good philosophy, and I love that. I love what you had to say about this idea. It's like, you know, if I focus on my employees' success, my success will come.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because I think about my own growth goals as a business, you know, here at Job Calls, and when I think about why I want to grow, you know, there's certainly the personal income future side of things. I mean, I'm you know, nearing 50, wanting to have you know, stability and in my, you know, financial situation and things along those lines. But really, it's about who can I hire next? What people do I want to bring on the team? How do I want to help other people grow? How do I want to teach other people, you know, this skill set that I've been able to develop over the last few decades? For me, I love what I do.
Right.
And I get the sense that you love what you do too, and will happily
Absolutely.
help other people.
We do the same stuff that a lot of these other companies are doing because that stuff's important. But what I like to challenge people with the concept, because our business really started to take off after my divorce was final in 2020. And what happened? I decided to get healthy, personally healthy, emotionally healthy, spiritually, physically healthy. Because if you look at all of the universe, seed begets seed. An apple tree produces apple seeds that produces apple trees. So looking at my life, when I got healthy personally, my business got healthy. So if I'm pushing others to grow, am I growing? Because seed begets seed.
Yeah, I like that. I've always really appreciated the oxygen mask analogy, right? We're on a plane at 30,000 feet in the air, and all of a sudden we lose cabin pressure. You know, you've got moments, right, before you're passing out, and so that's why they say put on your oxygen mask first before you help your kids, before you help everybody else. Because if I don't take care of me first, I can't take care of anybody else.
Right. No, that's good. And I really believe people are watching us more than we realize. That's the reason that I made the comment to the gentleman who wanted to start his own business, because first of all, I believe that I would help him any way I can if that's what he desired to do, because people have helped me along the way. But also your other employees, they're watching you. You say you love everybody. You say you care about people. Well, is that true all the time or only when it's convenient? Or I call it situational ethics. Situational ethics destroys a leader.
I agree. And I think integrity is really not about what you do when people are watching, but what you do when they're not.
That's good.
Any final points you'd like to wrap into here, Jim?
First of all, modeling the very behavior you want from them. Are you modeling it? Are you demonstrating it? You'll get in that in the book as I challenge men. Are you modeling the behavior you're saying you want? Numbers are important. They are. But Kevin Comerford taught me this. A funny story, man. I went to an Airtime 500 meeting back in 2007, and he was the keynote speaker, and I'm peeing in a urinal, and he's beside me. And I could tell he read a lot of the same books. I said, "Oh, you read 7 Habits, huh?" So he looks at me, and he goes, "Yeah, you picked up on that?" Yeah, he goes, "What are you doing here?" I was in Texas. I said, "I'm trying to save my new construction business, convert to, I'm going to lose everything I own." And we hit it off. He said, "Tell you can fly to California." Back then, he was doing $20 million a year, 20% net. He had the first senior technician that sold $2 million. His name was Chris, sold $2.5 million in 2007. And I went and spent 3 days with Kevin out there. I think he's doing $100 million now. I haven't talked to him in a long time. But he was another huge influence. You don't chase profit, chase process.
What I appreciate about what I've heard you say so far is it's really about leadership, but it's really about, your own authenticity as a person, as a leader, as a man, and not to discount your daughter as the president of your company.
Right.
So I'll say as a woman, as well. And I love that there are women, by the way, that are in this industry now. And I think I shared with you that, that my partner is a general contractor, and just absolutely kills it, and it brings this unique flair. But coming back to leadership here, what advice would you give a leader, an entrepreneur, somebody who wants to get into this business or maybe is thinking about starting their own company to really develop that type of culture that has made your business so successful?
There's a smorgasbord now of leadership stuff that is out there, servant style leadership. And this is where my faith comes out. Take the faith issue off the table for a second about Jesus. Whether he was or was not the Son of God right now, for this conversation is not relevant. He is the greatest leader who's ever lived because he has more followers today than he did when he was here. So if you look at it through the prism of just leadership, take the spiritual side off the table. And my Christian friends hate when I say this, but I say, take that off the table. How did he lead? Because he has more followers devoted to his principles today than ever. Learn from his style. He was honest. He led by example. And he told people the truth, even if it was uncomfortable.
Yeah. Hard conversations are so hard to have.
They are. But his life exemplified what he said he believed. That is the single most powerful leadership tool that we can have.
So in other words, if I'm hearing you right, you really want to just model the way that you want your people to show up.
Mm-hmm. Are you a golfer at all?
Terrible one, but sort of.
Have you noticed they have all these little, I think you call them stitches. Tiger Woods' son spins the club the same way, puts his glove on the same way. Every year I used to watch the father-son golf tournament, and it is comical. The commentators spend more time talking about how the child literally looks like a living clone. And the father didn't try to teach them to do those things. They just picked it up because they watched their father model them. We all have children. Do you see any of your negative character traits manifested in your children? The answer is probably yes.
Oh yeah.
How hard did you spend teaching them that?
Well, I think it's how hard did I spend trying to not teach them that?
but the reason they picked it up is because they saw it modeled consistently.
Sure.
It sounds so simplistic, but if you really want your installers to be detail oriented, if you really want your installers to clean up, if you really want your service technicians to be thorough and to listen to the customers, is that their experience with you? It's not easy, but it's very simple.
I hate to coin the phrase monkey see, monkey do, but that's exactly what it is, and thinking about my own experience too, there were those negative things that I talked about with my father, but he was also an entrepreneur. Okay. And, and it was sad for me that I had to go work for him to really have a relationship with him in my early adulthood. But I spent 10 years doing so. And the fact of the matter is, he passed back in 2020, and I still, there will be times just where I'm moving through my day and I'm talking with people and I'm making decisions and I'm going, wow, my dad would have done that exact thing. And for better or worse, he was a great entrepreneur. He was very successful and built very successful companies. And because he did show up in a positive way, I think, as a positive role model. And I've seen, where I'm kind of a chip off the old block, I think, or at least I'd hope so. I don't know. Maybe my people might say something different, but they stick around. So I'm guessing that they probably like working with me and
absolutely. I think by very definition too, this goes to the concept. It's really about leadership. If an entrepreneur wants his business to grow and to go someplace, leadership by very definition means I'm the first one there. If I'm leading you're following. John Maxwell says, if you think you're leading and you turn around and look behind you and no one's following, you're just taking a walk. A lot of people think leadership is me sitting here and telling you where to go or what to do or how to do it. That's not leadership.
That's managing.
That is managing. That's all that is. And leadership is, again, that's the key to growth. It's the key to sustainable growth. So you don't have to throw money at the marketing machine that does or does not work. And it's just healthy growth. And we've been very, very, very fortunate. Last year was the only year we did not grow. We've grown 10 to 21% every year. Last year, because of hyperinflation, and it got kind of crazy, and people were fixing units that they used to replace. But we made adjustments, and we had the best fourth quarter we've ever had since we've been in business. And our first quarter right now is matching the best first quarter we ever had.
That's fantastic.
But it's just about committing to your principles and not bending, no matter how uncomfortable it is.
Well, Jim, this has been fantastic for me, and I'm sure it will be for our listeners as well. Real quick, if somebody's in your area and they're looking to, looking for a fantastic air conditioning contractor, how would they go about finding you?
Yeah, it's a Freedom Air Conditioning. We're in Auburndale. Our phone number is 863-229-7058, and our website's myfreedomair.net. And we're on Facebook, and like I said, we would love to be here to service anybody. We service a majority of the Tampa area, all of Lakeland, Auburndale, Winter Haven, and some of the Kissimmee area as well.
Fantastic. And if somebody wanted to learn more about, your style of leadership and kind of what gives you your special sauce, I know that you do have a book out there. Tell us again what that is and where they could find that.
It's called Masculinity by Design, Finding True North, and it actually has a workbook that goes with it. It's translated into Spanish too, so if folks out there have family members, and literally the book is really about me leading myself correctly as a man, servant style leadership. And also, I'll throw this out there, if guys have questions, email me, jim@myfreedomair.net. I will respond. I have a heart for people because, as I mentioned to you in our phone conversation, in 2020, I almost took my own life. I was that broken. And nobody knew. My town would have been shocked. So I say to the business owner out there, you're not alone. You have someone here that understands. Just reach out. I'll help you in a way I can.
That's fantastic, Jim. Thank you again so much for joining me here. And again, folks, I'm Adam Loveridge with Job Calls Home Service Marketing. This is the Home Services Marketing Growth to Acquisition podcast, and I look forward to catching you on the next one. Thanks again, Jim.
Thank you.